people have to understand and have a relationship with the principles of Hermeticum. We have to realize that this cosmos needs balance. It is balance, and we are shards of that cosmos, as above so below. Everything corresponds, the law of correspondence. Everything has a polarity, everything has rhythm, and so we have to know that we have to keep our souls, egos, bodies in a state of balance, yin and yang. You see, people have told us this for millennia, but how quickly we forget. My eyes are all over the place because I'm always doing several things at once, and I'm observing the world about me, and one of the things I'm doing, I'm looking for fungi or any anomalies which I find interesting, curious. I don't just have to be, one-tracked minded. I have the facility and ability for multitasking, and lots of people don't have that ability. So, to keep balance, people, our spirit needs it. Our spirits need it. And when I'm speaking about spirits, for those of you that are not afraid of what you are, too many people are afraid of what they are. You are spirits. You are the devil. You are God. You're angelic. You're all this stuff. It all comes out of human consciousness, cosmic consciousness. Whatever is in human consciousness is within us. It derives from us. And so have you ever seen angels or demons or anything like that outside of your imagination? And even when we take entheogens and our imagination projects things onto the clouds and projects things onto the world, because that's what consciousness does. It's an incredible thing. So we have to ensure that we're balanced all the time in everything that we do. And sometimes we have to have me time. Sometimes we engage in some facet of socialising. Look at these down here. Don't know what they are. Growing on wood. Interesting. They're the same colour as chicken of the woods. Chicken of the woods grows on wood, but they're very wavy and they are shelved. And so, unless that's the very, very beginning of a whole group of them, then I wouldn't think it's chicken of the woods, which is a very nice, tasty, edible fungi, by all accounts, which I've never found, by the way, much to my chagrin. We live in a certain part of the world which is given to certain things, and if we want to experience other things, then we have to go further afield, don't we? And that's why I've travelled extensively around the world looking for other things, investigating other cultures. He looked at me and then he looked away without the slightest of concern or interest. He's just busy enjoying himself. within this state of mind which is absolutely still. And the only time he will come out of his stillness is if he's a little bit hassled. And if I went towards him, he would get up and he would move out of the way, because he wouldn't know or be able to work out what my intention was. And so preservation, fear would take over people. And so this is the whole thing about fear, isn't it? If we don't understand what's going on around the world, and we can't eliminate all the so-called potential dangers, then we are forever in a state of fear. Our amygdala is dripping cortisol constantly, and that's what happens when we have too many variables, like in the city, because we don't know who's going to snatch our handbags or phones, or who's going to compromise us, or what slate's going to fall off a high building, or what car's going to run off the road. There's all of these potentials, and so our mind contemplates them. Yes, but you see, when we become wiser, and when our consciousness has a greater ability to be able to discern our environment, then it naturally eliminates most of the things that the uninitiated mind would consider to be a threat. So then we live more freely, whereas some people they run on high octane, don't they? They've got an enormous amount of cortisol flowing through their veins, and they are constantly anxious, and they do not know what it's like to have a still mind and a still body, absolutely still, like that bull over there. Was it a bull? Was it a cow? I don't know. It had two big lumps on its head. Maybe it's going to grow its horns. So yes, when we become more experienced, we become wiser, we have more confidence in our own discernment, you see. And then when we are old souls, and we've been to this earth excursion many times, then from the get-go, you are not producing cortisol, because your spirit impresses upon the soul and the ego that it isn't necessary. So, whilst I was cycling down here, it's about 3/4 of a mile, I'm thinking about relationships, and how in the last video I'm saying, well, it's a process of elimination, because if you eliminate all the potentials for being unsettled, then you live more of a solitary life. And mostly wise people live solitary lives, people. They're not getting involved in the drama unless they're needy, or unless they've been in a relationship and it's kind of like, oh, she's alright, she stays out my fucking way and she gets the grub on the table and does the shopping, so I'll stay with her, whatever. But if you've been in these relationships and they've failed, haven't they? Relationships fail. That's their default mechanism. That's their default program to fail, and the vast majority fail. And when they fail, the good is overlaid with the bad. And at the end of a relationship, very often the relationships are bad and bitter. If you've got kids and property and all this stuff, then you've got to go through the courts, and you're extorted, and if you're male and you've got kids, you end up with fuck all, and you come out of it and you go, wow, what the fuck was all that about? And you say to yourself, well, the kids come out of it, okay, but if you didn't have kids, you just had a relationship, then you say, well, it was great at the beginning, in the middle it was good, then at the end it was terrible. So if we put all that in a pot and simmer it and see what we've got left as a residue, we'll discern that everything cancels everything out. So there will be nothing left of that relationship except the experience and the scars. You'll carry the scars for the rest of your life. And so you'll ask yourselves, was there any point in that? Initially, when we're young souls and young human beings, we don't question things like that because we're driven, of course, unconsciously. Everything is driving to procreate. We're just machines, and consciousness is just here for the ride. And so the body does what it needs to do as a genetic procreating thing, and so consciousness goes on for the ride, and lots of times it will have a roller coaster ride to hell and back, and then you'll go at the end of your life, what the fuck's all that about? Experience. Consciousness has had experience. Consciousness has used the body, and you don't have to feel too upset about that because you're not the body, you are consciousness, so you are the user. Isn't that cool? Well, when we are small-minded and egotistical and we're not evolved, we may think that, oh, consciousness, you're using me. Oh, the universe is using me for my experience. No. You are the cosmos. You are consciousness, and you are experiencing yourself. So don't be too rink about that. But as naive human beings, we come out of relationships and we go, what the fuck was all that about? You ask yourself the question, well, is there any future in having any more? Because if we weigh up, the vast majority of relationships starting off good, it doesn't matter whether they're male or female, whether they are romantic or platonic. They start off good and end up, in the middle, maybe great, okay. And then very often they'll just, end up terrible. And how many friends have I had which have just turned out to be assholes in the end? Because if you have friends long enough, there's so much opportunity for them to falter. There's so much opportunity for us to falter. It's not always them. We'll change and we'll falter and, different sorts of things. And when that happens, all you're left is the bitterness. The bitterness lasts longer, doesn't it? Because I remember male friends, and it's kind of like, yeah, it was cool. We had the crack, and but then it was bitter, and you just remember that. Yeah, this fucker, this sneaky fucker did that. Man, no wonder I whooped his ass. Yeah. And so you double question everything, and it's kind of like, well, in view of the fact that invariably all relationships end up going pear-shaped, is there any point to it? There's only a point to it, people, from a conscious experiential perspective. But if you are an old soul, and if you have experienced a lot of things in this human life, then you should be wise enough to be able to make the decision that I've done it now. I mean, me, travelled all around the world, had, a whole myriad of experiences in all different forms. Now it's kind of like, I've done that. There's not really that much, I don't think, that the human being can offer me. If I ever met a wizard or a witch, then I'd find those intriguing. Maybe one day I'll be beguiled by another witch. I've been beguiled by a witch before, some of you, and it was fascinating and interesting, traumatizing, and ultimately ultimately a lot of things. But you see how I can genuinely laugh and smile about that, because carrying bitterness, people, will destroy you. It's only you that carries the bitterness, and if you project bitterness onto somebody else, it's coming from you. So you'd be well advised not to do it. And I don't do it. I don't do it with anybody. I never even had an ounce of bitterness for the guy that shot me in my bed, because it was a fucking incredible experience, an amazing story, and so much came out of that. It changed the whole trajectory of my life, and made me what I am today, which is contrary to what some of you guys may feel. I'm a real cool fucking dude. But I play with people, because if you're not real to me, then you don't mean anything, do you? And if you are real to me, then I'll say, I'm not your mummy. I don't have to protect your feelings. That's not my job. Protecting silly, fickle feelings. It's your job. You keep those in order. I'm just going to be me. And I'm going to do and say whatever I feel. And I'm going to push the barriers. That's what I do. I push the barriers. I see how far our relationship can go with each other. See what metal we're made of, See how sincere we really are. We can listen to all these wonderful words we tell each other all day long. But I like to put them to the test, I like to put them to the test. Yeah. And most people are not up for it. So looking at this wee pond, in its winter clothes, no activity. There's not even any flies around. This pond is, you can see now, it's got all this murky, oily shit on top, scummy shit, and it looks as black as the Ace of Spades. But in the springtime and in the summer, it's pretty clear, unless it's been raining, and there's lots of lilies and flowers, the classic Buddha lily, and they open and they close with the sunlight, and there's dragonflies and damselflies and water birds and a whole bunch of activity. But now the vibrancy has gone and there's a stillness, you see. And so it's the cosmos. It's the principles of Hermeticum. It has to go through periods of stillness, of rejuvenation, regeneration, deep contemplation, isolation, before all the craziness starts again. How many people have the constitution to be absolutely alone? I mean, I can do the aloneness for long periods, but because I've always got so much to say, I invariably end up breaking the silence with my own voice and my own thoughts. And I'm like, well, my voice and my thoughts are important. They carry weight, and that's why you guys listen. And one viewer today said, I'll stop listening to your videos the day you stop making them. Until then, I'll keep extracting whatever comes out of the ether, something like that. So as long as my spirits have something to say, you'll keep listening. And you know, there's lots of you that are often in different minds because I change my perspective and my delivery so often that it's difficult for lots of people to get their heads around that, because most people are just looking, is he on the left or is he on the right? Does he believe in this or does he believe in that? You can't believe in everything, Aaron, or you can't not believe in anything, Aaron. No, you can. And that's the thing, and I do. I embrace it all, because I embrace the principles of Hermeticum, which embrace everything. I don't dismiss nothing. You know, everything has its reason and its purpose, otherwise it wouldn't exist. You see? A tinge of orange. I don't know whether it was Amanita. And so, for people that are looking for truth, well, I know lots of people say there is truth. I've never found it. I most certainly don't think it's in existence. It depends on what level of intellectualizing you want to stop at. Because if you are deeply immersed in this corporeal reality, you know, like Jordan Peterson, you know, looking at truth, and he's so confused and in deep contemplation because he can't work this out and he can't work that out, because it's not supposed to be worked out. Peterson. You know, you see, people like Peterson, you know, are very intelligent in one way, but then they let themselves down in another way, because he can't compute, or he won't accept the magnitude of what's going on here and the myopia of his own limited consciousness. He can't accept that. Because he has the Messiah complex, whereby he is vastly more intelligent than most people around him in a humanistic variety of way, psychoanalytical, philosophical, you know, this sort of thing. But he doesn't seem to have too many spiritual connotations. And so that's why he's so deeply immersed into the biblical scripture. And he can't just let it go, this is a crock of shit coming from insane minds or drug-induced minds or lying minds. You know, all this, he can't get his head around that. And what's the chances of it being that? Because these books have passed through so many hands throughout millennia. And if he read the history, and if he really looked into the scholarship activity of ancient scriptures and that, then he would conclude that there's no way whatever he's reading in the Bible could have a modicum of fucking truth or you know, higher reasoning to it. He just invents things because that's what his mind does. Because his mind is very analytical, very psychological, then that he projects that onto the Bible, you see. And so that's all we do. But he doesn't realise that. He should realise that as a psychologist, shouldn't he? But he doesn't realise that. He just thinks, no, 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 some super intelligent, must have been God, put these words in people's minds, put them down here, for me, only me to interpret, because nobody ever on the planet has interpreted the Bible like Peterson has. And so, you know, I think it's more reasonable to assume that you're insane than highly intelligent. Because if you're really trying to make something so massive and so earth-shattering and meaningful to the human being, well, I would have thought it would have been much more simple. And to be quite frank, I think the important things are the more simple things. And if you've got to look for them with the deepest of psychological mind, you need to be a professor, you know, great at the temples to be able to work this stuff out. Then what the fuck use is that to the masses? It's worth nothing. It's worth nothing. And all this biblical corpus studying bullshit that Peterson's been doing, it means nothing to nobody. It's just highfalutin nonsense. And I love it when he speaks with Richard Dawkins, because Richard Dawkins, he just says, that's absolute bollocks. A classic British bulldog. That's absolute bollocks. Oh my goodness. Oh my god. Oh, by the way, as you know, this video is nice and calm, and all the videos I've made today are nice and calm, and you see how I'm laughing, you see another side of me. You see, look, people will write in the comments, and one comment, some guy put it down today, but then evidently removed it upon reflection. Maybe didn't know how I'd take it, or maybe watched another video which then shed light on what he was considering. Because look, this is what people say to me. This is what the uninitiated, this is what the non-thinking person will say to me. They'll watch one of my videos, they will get egoically triggered, and then they'll project that back onto me, that I'm this and I'm that, and they can see quite clearly how bitter and twisted I am, and how jealous I am of other people with bigger platforms and all this stuff. I'm like, you're so far flung from the point. Just watch the next video. Watch the next video. Watch me with Providence. Watch me out in nature. Watch me talking to a little old lady in the graveyard. You need to watch a whole lot more. And by the time you've done that, you'll look at me and you'll go, the guy's everything. He's kind of like everything. Yeah, he can be really kind and considerate and respectful, but then he can be a bombastic, belligerent cunt. Yeah, everything. I am the cosmos, people. And when you evolve, you will be too, you see. That's why, you know, I have the propensity to look down on my fellow man, because I know at what level I'm at. And I can see all the you know, the useful idiots down on the many rungs below. And I can see all the useful idiots in politics. I can see all the useful idiots who are millionaires and billionaires. I can see how useful they are, but how idiotic they are. Really. You know, the wisest book anyone could ever read, if they could ever manage to interpret it, you probably best listen to scholars to interpret it, is the Tao Te Ching. Because the Tao Te Ching will just tell you, look, you will never, ever, ever work anything out. So don't waste your fucking time. Just live a very simple life and enjoy what you experience. And the more humble you are, the more animalistic you are, the more grounded you are, the happier you'll be. And this book was written apparently 800 AD, but nobody really knows for sure. And so it's, you know, it's over 1,000 years old, and the wisdom is timeless. And, you know, this is why I include excerpts of it in my book. because I know things to be to have a certain reality. And so, I've included like the allegory of Plato's cave, which has a great I can't lend myself to saying truths because I don't believe in truth. But people would say things are true enough. And Peterson often uses that terminology. Things are true enough because it's very, very difficult to get to the real truth. What is truth? We get into the deep, murky realms of philosophy and, we get lost in the abyss. So we just have to say it's true enough. And so as far as the Tao Te Ching, Lao Tzu's Tao Te Ching is concerned, well, that's what I'm doing now. I'm out in the natural environment. I'm as prehistoric as I could be. I've got clothes on, and I've got technological gadget in my hand. But my consciousness, my spirit is prehistoric. And because I've had many experiences whereby I've realised my histosity, I realised my connection with the collective unconscious, and I realised my primate state, and I feel it. I'm so deeply connected to it. And so I'm here now, and the Tao Te Ching is within me. And so, when we experience many facets of what is to be a human being, with varying states of consciousness, then we become very, very broad in our outlook, our perception, and our assessment of what this thing is. And when you have taken certain substance like Amanita muscaria, and you have like spirits enter you, you feel the spirit come into you, and it's looking through your eyes, it's using your body, it's living vicariously through you. I had a Viking living vicariously through me in modern times. I had a very, very primal man, and I had a wolf, and my consciousness was aware of these spirits, and when the wolf was possessing my body, I was running around on all fours and I was howling, ooh, and I was like very, very protective and very territorial about my females, my clan, and then with the primal man, I had a vision of Christopher Columbus with his 3 ships off the coast, and I'm looking and I'm all out of sorts. I'm terrified. I don't know what they are. I've never seen ships before. I don't know what they look like, monsters. And I describe the feeling, what I saw with my eyes, that these were big sea monsters with angry flapping white wings, and then these beasts with 2 heads came walking off. They had 2 heads and 4 legs. They were men on horses because in the Americas, before the arrival of Christopher Columbus, it is said that they never knew what horses were. Horses weren't on that part of the world. So when you've experienced things like this, people, you see and feel the world different. So I think I'm going to wrap this video up because I have to spend time alone. That's what I came here to do. I've been talking now 35 minutes. I've got to spend at least the next hour in a walking meditation with an absolute still mind and body immersed in the Tao.